4 years ago, every single World Cup match was played within driving distance of every other match. You could wake up in your hotel in Qatar, drive 45 minutes, and be at any stadiums in the tournament. No flights, no border crossings, no passport checks, no time zones. Now look at this World Cup. 16 stadiums, 3 countries, 3 time zones, 4,500 kilometers between the furthest 2 grounds. A team could play their first match in Vancouver, their second in Mexico City, and their third in Miami, crossing 2 international borders, 3 climate zones, and an altitude change that could put a player in an oxygen mask. This is the biggest World Cup in history, and the geography is trying to break it. To understand why this World Cup is different, you need to see the map. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar used 8 stadiums across 5 cities. The entire country is smaller than the state of Connecticut. Every stadium was within an hour of every other stadium. Players slept in the same bed for the entire tournament. The 2026 World Cup uses 16 stadiums across 16 cities in 3 countries. The United States has 11 of them. Mexico has 3. Canada has 2. The distance between Vancouver in the northwest and Miami in the southeast is 4,500 kilometers. That's further than London to Cairo, further than Tokyo to Bangkok. You could fit the entire country of Qatar into the space between those 2 stadiums over 1,000 times. And teams will actually have to travel these distances. Curacao, a tiny Caribbean island with a population of 150,000, has the worst travel schedule of any team in the tournament. Their group stage games are in Houston, Philadelphia, and potentially San Francisco. Their total travel distance is over 10 times what Mexico has to travel. 10 times for 3 games. England plays in Dallas, Boston, and New York. 3 cities spread across 2,500 kilometers. Meanwhile, Argentina bounces between Dallas and Kansas City. A total of 461 miles for the entire group stage. The schedule isn't unfair by accident. It's unfair because when you spread a football tournament across an entire continent, geography picks winners and losers before a single ball is kicked. Here's a problem most fans haven't thought about. Mexico City's Estadio Azteca sits at 2,240 meters above sea level. That is higher than every major city in Europe. The air up there contains roughly 25% less oxygen than at sea level. If you've never experienced altitude, here's what it feels like. You run for 30 seconds and your lungs burn. You sprint and your vision narrows. Your legs feel heavy. Your reaction time slows. Your body is working harder to do less. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is a measurable, documented physical disadvantage for any team that isn't acclimatized. Mexico has played at the Azteca for decades. They train at altitude. Their bodies are adapted to it. When South Africa walked out for the opening match of the tournament in Mexico City, they were playing football in conditions their lungs had never experienced. Now here's where the geography gets cruel. Imagine you're a team that just played your first group match at sea level in Miami. 35 degrees, humid. Your body adjusted to the heat and the thick, oxygen-rich air. 3 days later, you fly to Mexico City. You land at 2,240 meters. The air is thin. The temperature is cooler. Your body has to completely readjust its oxygen processing in 72 hours. Medical research says full altitude acclimatization takes 2 to 3 weeks. You have 3 days. Then after that match, you fly back down to a sea level stadium in the United States. Your body readjusts again. In 9 days, you've gone from sea level to 2,240 meters and back to sea level. Your lungs don't know what's happening. No previous World Cup has done this. In Brazil 2014, all stadiums were at relatively similar altitudes. In Russia 2018, the same. In Qatar 2022, everything was flat desert at sea level. This tournament is the first where altitude is a weapon, and the teams based in Mexico know exactly how to use it. Every previous World Cup in history has been held in one country, one set of immigration rules, one currency, one legal system. This one has three. If you're a fan following your team through the group stage, you might need to cross an international border between matches. A supporter watching Canada play could start in Toronto, fly to Vancouver for the second match, that's domestic, then potentially need to fly to a US city for the knockout rounds. That's an international flight requiring either an ESTA, a visa waiver, or a full visa depending on your passport. Now multiply that by the 48 teams and their traveling supporters from over 100 countries. Not every passport is treated equally at every border. An Iranian fan entering the United States faces different requirements than a French fan. A Mexican supporter driving to a match in Dallas crosses a border that has been the subject of intense political debate for years. The logistics are staggering. Teams themselves need to move equipment, medical staff, and squads of the 26 players across international borders between matches. Charter flights help, but customs clearance, equipment inspections, and immigration processing don't disappear because you're wearing a national team tracksuit. And then there's the time zone issue. Vancouver is 3 hours behind Miami. A match kicking off at 7 p.m. in Vancouver is 10 p.m. on the East Coast. A fan in London watching a late game in Los Angeles is watching at 3 a.m. The scheduling accommodates television audiences, but the players have to physically exist in these time zones. Fly east to west and you gain 3 hours. Fly west to east and you lose them. Jet lag is a real physiological problem when you're playing a knockout match 72 hours after crossing 3 time zones. On any given match day during this World Cup, one team could be playing in 35-degree heat with 90% humidity in Miami, while another team plays in 15-degree rain in Vancouver on the same afternoon, in the same tournament. That has never happened before. The climate range across these 16 cities is absurd. Miami in June is a tropical furnace. Houston is barely better. Dallas in late June regularly hits 38 degrees. Atlanta is hot and humid. Mexico City is cool and thin-aired. San Francisco can be 16 degrees and foggy in the middle of summer. Vancouver could be 14 degrees and raining. A European team used to playing in 20-degree weather flies to Houston for a group stage match in 38-degree heat. They lose 2 kilograms of water weight per player during the match. 3 days later, they fly to Seattle, where it's 17 degrees and overcast. Their bodies have to thermoregulate in the opposite direction. Qatar solved this problem by air conditioning its stadiums. Every match was played at roughly 22 degrees, regardless of the desert heat outside. It was artificial, but it was equal. This tournament offers no such luxury. The outdoor stadiums in Miami, Houston, Dallas, and Atlanta will be genuinely hot. Some have retractable roofs and climate control. Others don't. The playing conditions will vary wildly from match to match, from city to city, from afternoon to evening. Geography doesn't just decide who you play, it decides what you play in. You'd think all of this would make hosting a World Cup across 3 countries a terrible idea. It's not. It's a calculated one. No single country on Earth has 16 stadiums large enough to host a 48-team World Cup. The United States comes closest, which is why it has 11 of the 16 venues. But adding Mexico and Canada does 2 things. It turns the tournament into a continental event rather than a national one, and it gives FIFA three governments sharing the cost instead of one carrying it alone. The 1994 World Cup, the last time the US hosted, still holds the record for total attendance. Americans will fill stadiums. Mexicans are among the most passionate football fans on earth. Canadians are a growing football market. The geography is a nightmare, but the economics are a dream. Every World Cup tells a story about the place that hosts it. Qatar told a story about money and ambition in a country the size of a parking lot. Russia told a story about a nation stretching across 11 time zones trying to prove it belonged. Brazil told a story about football coming home to the country that invented it. This World Cup tells a different story. It tells a story about a continent so large that playing a single tournament across it requires crossing borders, climbing mountains, changing climates, and fighting geography every step of the way. The players won't just compete against each other, they'll compete against the map. And if you've learned anything from this channel, the map always has an opinion. Subscribe. We'll see you for the next one.